The Trump administration laid off more than 800 NOAA employees in February, another 1,000 the following month. This is a story I've been following very closely. You're a former deputy administrator of NOAA. How will these cuts affect the agency's abilities during what is predicted to be a very busy hurricane season?
Right. Thanks, Hena. You know, these across-the-board cuts are just not the way to find efficiencies in government. And we're going to see impacts to the American weather model that's often talked about that NOAA runs through the National Weather Service. And, you know, in hurricane season, we're always talking about the American versus the European model. When I was the acting and deputy administrator, we put in place a program to advance the American weather model to be the best in the world. And it was making progress towards that end until these cuts. Now we're having vital data sources that aren't getting into the model. And one skills score that I saw recently, where the model had been around 95 out of 100%, has dropped 20 percentage points to around 75%. Wow. And that's not going to be good for hurricane season or the tornado outbreak that you just saw in the middle of the country.
You know, taking a step back, because I think a lot of us don't really realize how many cuts and how it's going to affect us, because it's the age of automation. Most of us just look at our phone and we see what the weather's going to be. So talk to us about the importance of having human forecasters to comprehend and report weather data to officials, to us, the public. How could these staffing cuts affect those efforts?
Right. Well, a good example is the National Hurricane Center, which is going to, with the NOAA headquarters on May 22nd, announced their projection for the hurricane season and its intensity. And the Hurricane Center, they use a blend of models. It's much of it's automated, but all the models don't necessarily agree. And so to get the optimal forecast it takes a human in the loop to estimate, knowing which models are stronger than others for a given period or location. And so that final cone of uncertainty that's put out by the National Hurricane Center and seen all around hurricane season is made by forecasters using automation, but making the final say. And it's very important for a forecaster to be in the loop right now.
I have no doubt about that. Admiral, beyond just weather forecasting and being ready, you say these cuts could have ripple effects on the economy. What do you mean by that?
Oh, big effects on the economy. There's so many things that NOAA does through data and services that affect things like our seaports and marine transportation system, which contribute about 2.9 trillion to U.S. GDP. NOAA's data and services are critical for that. Think about the Key Bridge that collapsed in Baltimore last year. Those kind of accidents could be commonplace without the water levels, the currents, and the weather forecasting data that NOAA provides just our U.S. seaports. But then there's other aspects of the economy like agriculture. Farmers need to know what the seasonal outlook is going to be for weather, and that helps them determine crop rotation, for example. And then there's things like space weather that NOAA does, and that affects communications as well as GPS, which is a vital part of the economy. And then there's fisheries management. Our fisheries contribute about $300 billion a year to our economy, and the data and science that NOAA performs to manage fisheries sustainably, it makes that happen. And with all those are going to be degraded because of these cuts.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Again, I don't think many of us realize just the role that NOAA plays in our lives every single day. Now, despite these job cuts, the Washington Post is reporting that NOAA is scrambling to fill at least 155 vacancies before the end of the month. This includes meteorologists, radar technicians. Admiral, how crucial is it for NOAA to fill these jobs and quickly?
Right. Well, again, it's going to be the hurricane season, and that's when NOAA is at its busy, or the Weather Service is most busy. And so it will be critical to hire into all these positions because they're putting out warnings, again, like you just showed in Kentucky, that are saving lives and property. And that's important for this. It's really, unfortunately, it shouldn't be this way. We shouldn't have fired so many people. Now we're in a knee-jerk reaction to try to rehire into vacant positions. It's just not the way to run a good business.
NOAA is set to release its Atlantic hurricane season. Like you mentioned, it's predicted to be a busy one. In your experience, what do officials need to be doing right now to prepare?
Yes, well, this is the time to prepare for a hurricane if you're on the Gulf Coast or East Coast. In fact, I lived through this. My house was destroyed in Hurricane Katrina. I lived on the Gulf Coast, and my neighborhood saw 27 feet of storm surge. So now it's having evacuation plans, having your go kit ready. And so when you hear about a hurricane tracking towards your county, you want to be ready to leave on a moment's notice.
Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet. Appreciate the context here, sir. So much going on, and like you said, hurricane season hasn't even started yet. Thank you again.
Gladly.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.